All right, it looks like we've kind of solidified our participants for today. Hi, my name is Erica. I work in the financial aid office at Irvine Valley College, and today's presentation is we are going to be discussing financial aid and the Irvine Valley Promise program. Again, my name is Erica Lehman, and I'm joined today by Denise Perez. She is a wonderful outreach specialist here at Irvine Valley College. We're so happy to be presenting to you today. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. We've got a lot of information to cover for financial aid. Again, thank you so much for being here. I want to make it clear that this information pertains not only to community college, but a lot of it pertains to UC, Cal States, and private schools as well. We're going to talk about the types of financial aid. We're going to talk about how need is determined and some special information about promise too. So here we go. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start off with the four types of financial aid: grants, scholarships, loans, and federal work study. In order for a student to be eligible for financial aid, they have to submit an application. And a common misconception that I encounter quite a bit is, oh, Erica, I did my financial aid application last year. That's good for another year, right? Incorrect, actually. So, in order for a student to be eligible for multiple years of financial aid, they have to do a new application every single year they plan to be enrolled in college. So, that's really important to remember. When being considered for financial aid, please make sure you apply every single academic year. Okay. So, let's talk about my favorite. My favorite is grants. And the best thing about grants is they don't have to be repaid if students are passing their classes. So that's money just for the students. They don't have to pay it back. The criteria and award amounts will vary depending on the school that the student submits their intent to register at, their year in college, what their need looks like. And then additionally, any other types of financial assistance that the student brings on with them to the school. So there's quite a few different types, but the most common is Cal Grants for state schools. Students have to report their GPA, or sorry, the schools will report a student's GPA when they, for their junior and sophomore year, and that GPA is then determined that GPA is then used to determine a student's eligibility for certain types of Cal Grants. Pell Grant is a federal aid. And then the most common type of financial aid that we award at the community college level is something called the California College Promise Grant, which is different than Irvine Valley Promise. One thing I do want to highlight that a lot of students didn't know, and I actually didn't know until I started working in financial aid, is if a student withdraws from all of their classes, and they've received a financial aid payment, they may have to pay that financial aid back if they withdraw from all of their classes. Now, one or two, that's okay. We can typically make an adjustment, but if the student withdraws from all of their classes, they may need to pay back that financial aid they received, because how can you use the money for school like you promised if you're not enrolled in any classes? Okay, so that's really important to remember. Work with a counselor, build a manageable course load. It's really important to make sure that you set your students up for success, okay? So that you can continue to be eligible for financial aid all of the years that you're in school, okay? Now, I'm gonna throw some numbers at you, but realistically, what I want students to know when they look at this slide is that financial aid is stackable. A student can get their fees waived through that California College Promise Grant, in addition to receiving a Pell Grant, in addition to receiving a Cal Grant. And if a student enrolls in 15 units and they're eligible for that Cal Grant, they can also receive up to $4,000 per semester through that Student Success Completion Grant. And those monies are not available for students attending a UC or Cal State. So again, financial aid is stackable. Just because you get one doesn't preclude you from receiving others. It's always important to submit that financial aid application so you can receive the most amount of financial aid. And the sooner the better, because there's certain programs that are more competitive. Not everything is subject to entitlement. Okay, so like I mentioned, The Cal Grant is a type of state aid that's available to California residents. The priority consideration deadline for the senior class of 2024 is April 2nd. Normally it's March 2nd, but with the delay in the release of the FAFSA this year, the priority consideration deadline has been extended to April 2nd. So what does this even mean? Priority consideration, Erica, high school entitlement? What the heck? Let me explain. So, like I said, we're using junior and sophomore grades to determine a student's eligibility for a Cal Grant. So, if a student is eligible for a Cal Grant at the time that they press that submit button, as long as it's before April 2nd, that student is entitled to their Cal Grant. Again, if the student is eligible for a Cal Grant at the time that they press that submit button, if it's before April 2nd, they are entitled to that Cal Grant. Okay. Now, the rules are explain that after entitlement, then it becomes competitive and it's based on budget and availability of funds. But really, we really want students to hit that April 2nd deadline for submission of their financial aid application to really make sure that they get the most financial aid that they're eligible for. Okay. The eligibility for the Cal Grant is based on financial need and income and asset ceilings. Okay. And so another factor is it's not just like, okay, if you make less than this amount of money, you're eligible. It's also based on household size as well. So the best thing to do is just submit your application. Okay. There really is no like secret number, like, okay, if I put in this number, I'll get a Cal Grant. It's not the way it works. Okay. I'm gonna keep going because I want to make sure we're respectful of everybody's time. This is the Cal Grant annual award amounts. For this year specifically. So if a student has a 3.0 junior sophomore GPA that was reported, the income and asset ceiling is a little bit higher. And so that student can be eligible for a Cal Grant A. The GPA requirement for a Cal Grant B is a 2.0, but that income and asset ceiling is significantly lower because that student's only going to qualify for that $1,600 access award in their first year. So for a Cal Grant B recipient in their second year, then that's when the 13,752, 5,742 plus the access award, that's when it kicks in. Okay. And again, the messaging in this slide is really to communicate that the amount of money, like the amount of a student's Cal Grant fluctuates depending on their school of attendance. Okay, so let's say that a student is a Cal Grant B eligible. Okay, they're going to get that access award for 2 years at a community college. And then if they transfer and they're still eligible for a Cal Grant, that's when the UC value can kick in, or if they transfer to a Cal State, that's when that value will kick in. That's kind of how that works, okay? For the Pell Grant, this is a federal type of aid. So federal Pell Grant, that can be used at in-state schools in California and out-of-state schools as well. So again, if their student is eligible for a Pell Grant, after they transfer, if they want to go to out-of-state, they can take their Pell Grant with them, but they cannot take their Cal Grant. Excuse me. Okay. So to be eligible for a Pell Grant, it's a little different than the Cal Grant because there is no priority consideration deadline for a Pell Grant. Again, we want students to apply sooner versus later so that they're eligible for the most amount of aid. But technically speaking, a student could complete their FAFSA or their their FAFSA halfway through the semester and receive that Pell Grant in the same semester. But again, we don't recommend that because we want this funds to be available to students when they need it at the beginning of the semester. So the sooner they apply, the better, the more time we have to get their file in order before we just give that financial aid payment. So for example, the 23-24 FAFSA, the academic year we're currently in, that FAFSA is not going to close until June 30th, 2024, because that's when the academic year ends. Okay. The maximum award amount for 23-24 is 7,395, and we're hoping that number will continue to increase because it increased from last year to this academic year, so we're hoping it will increase again. Okay. The California College Promise Grant is a fee waiver. So if students even have need of 1,100 when we do our cost of attendance versus student aid index number analysis, we can waive the cost of tuition for students. So through the California College Promise Grant, and this is a really great program. It's the most common type of financial aid we award at the community college level because the need is lower in comparison to other types of financial aid. And again, this is different than Promise, but we'll get into that a little bit more on how to qualify for Irvine Valley Promise program. Scholarships, okay? Scholarships is the second type of financial aid, and they are also really, really great. It's gift aid from public and private sources. The criteria and award amounts do vary, and typically it's a separate application. Here at IVC, once students become a student, if they're taking at least 6 units of coursework in fall and spring, so if they're half-time in fall, half-time in spring, they have a 2.0 GPA, they are eligible to participate in our Irvine Valley College scholarship program. It's a really great application. It's a couple of questions plus some personal statements. And current IVC students are applying for it right now. It just opened. It's a really great opportunity. One of the things I do like to preface with scholarships is sometimes it's not necessarily money that's cut directly to the student, but sometimes donors have specific instructions for how the money is supposed to be used. So sometimes it's a matter of, oh, okay, this money is specifically for tuition, or maybe this money is for a laptop. And so it's the school's responsibility to uphold the way the money is supposed to be spent. But it's also very often that students are dispersed the scholarship money. Sometimes it is money that's paid directly to them. Sometimes the school disperses it to them. Again, just want to make sure it's very clear that for scholarships, students do need to, students should expect like, hey, maybe there's a condition tied to the scholarship. So just to be aware of that when you're applying for scholarships. There is a list of external scholarships on financial aid office websites. A lot of academic departments do have specialized scholarships just for the students in that major. But my personal recommendation is to look at your high school counseling and career center first. And this is why. You think about even with the list of external scholarships or even just the IVC scholarship program, that's all of the students at IVC that have access to it, right? But for the specific school site, it's just the student's graduating class. So you have a statistic advantage when you're looking at the scholarships right at that school because it's just the seniors graduating class that are eligible for it. So it's a much smaller pool of applicants. And then as you build out, so you go like all of the at the school, all of the district, all of Orange County, California, all of America, right? Really think about the target audience and who also has access to the scholarship because you want to be strategic when you're applying. Also, never pay because it's probably a scam. Don't pay to apply for a scholarship. Okay, direct loans. This is the third type of financial aid, and direct loans do have to be repaid in addition to interest. What's really nice is the Department of Education offers a 6-month grace period for students. After they get their bachelor's degree or after they cease enrollment, they then have a 6-month grace period before they have to start making payments on those loans. Another benefit is direct loans typically have a much lower interest rate in comparison to private loans. Now, the amount that a student can take out is not super high, and it is based on their level of education, right? So if they're in their first year, their second year, and it's also dependent on their dependency status. So are they dependent student or are they independent student? There are 3 items that a student must complete in order to receive a loan. They need to do loan entrance counseling through studentaid.gov. They need to sign their master promissory note through studentaid.gov as well. And they need to complete the federal direct loan request form that stipulates, okay, I'm enrolled in fall and spring, and this is the amount of money I'm interested in taking out. I highly recommend students, especially if they are first time in college and there's a lot of money that can kick in first, only consider taking out loans. If you've exhausted all other options, you are definitely a worthwhile investment. But if you have all this other financial aid that will kick in first, maybe it's in your best interest to just rely on the grants and scholarships and then take out loans once you transfer, or um, or maybe considering other options, just because that interest does accrue and it does accrue fast. Okay. Like I said, the federal direct loan amount is going to be contingent on the student's grade level, their personal circumstances, and their need. A student cannot borrow more than it costs to attend the school. And they, again, have to do that loan entrance counseling. They need to sign that master promissory note, and they need to do a federal direct loan request form. Okay. Then fourth type of financial aid is going to be called a federal work study. And so this is specifically for FAFSA applicants, and it offers part-time employment on campus for students with need to help offset the cost of their education. The financial aid office can let students know if they are eligible for a work study position, but typically it's the department that does the hiring of the student. So for example, a student is interested in working in the bookstore, let's say. So the bookstore will reach out to the financial aid office and say, hey, we're interested in hiring the student. Are they eligible for work study? Okay, great. And we can work with them. But it's not necessarily the financial aid office that does the hiring, even though we do have some students who work in our office through this program. My biggest recommendation, since positions are filled on a first come, first served basis, the best time to ask about on-campus positions is in the summer. Okay, we know if you're eligible for work study, and we're typically trying to replenish positions from students that transferred or have graduated. Summer is the best time to ask about on-campus positions. You'll get the best response. Okay. All right, now, Erica, we know the types of financial aid. How can we apply for these aids? So happy you asked, okay? If a student has a valid Social Security number, they're completing the free application for federal student aid on studentaid.gov. If you are a freshman, sophomore, or a junior, do not go onto studentaid.gov until October of your senior year, okay? If you are currently a senior, also, please do not go to studentaid.gov because your application still is not available. I'll talk about another slide, but right now, the only thing that our class of 2024 can do right now is just make their FSAD. I encourage you to make your FSAD, but you do not have access to the application just yet. Okay. With the FAFSA, because like I mentioned earlier, it's been delayed. There's a lot of changes coming through, and one of those changes is the Future Act Direct Data Exchange. So this module is what's going to allow students and parents to transfer their IRS data directly into their students' FAFSA. Okay, so what this means is a parent will need to make an FSAID. The student also needs to make an FSAID on studentaid.gov, and they both need to provide approval and consent in order to transfer that information in. If a student and the parent do not provide approval or consent, the student will not be eligible for federal aid. Okay, so approval and consent is required. If the student provides approval and consent and the parent does not, only the student can take out unsubsidized federal direct loans, and that's it. No Pell Grant, no Cal Grant, no nothing, only loans. And not even subsidized loans, just unsubsidized loans. Okay. This is kind of just a preview Upcoming attractions. This was pulled from the um, Federal Student Aid's Better FAFSA, Better Future FAFSA demo presentation. So once a student reports their personal circumstances, they're verifying that they are under the age of 24. They do not like they are not married, they don't have any dependents, they're not actively enlisted in the military. The student must provide information about their parents. So it's going to be first name, last name, date of birth. I hope everybody knows their parents' birthdays. um, and then an active email address. The social security number is optional, but the email address is not. It does not need to necessarily match the FSA ID, but that email address needs to be an active email address that the parent has access to, because it's no longer the case where the student can just sit down and complete the entire application in one sitting. The parent has to sign in, provide approval and consent, input their information, have that tax information directly pulled in. If the IRS is not able to make that match, then they'll manually enter the tax information and then the rest of the demographic information. Then they sign out, the student completes their financial portion, and then the financial aid application can be submitted. Okay? I know that's a complicated process. I'll try to answer questions in the Q&A if I can. But just know this. The goal of the new FAFSA is just to have all of that tax information directly imported in. So the only thing the parent needs to provide is just asset information. That's the goal. Okay. For students who do not have a valid social security number, if they have graduated from a California high school, they've attended California schools for 3 or more years, they're AB 540 eligible. If they don't have a valid visa, they can complete the California DREAM Act application on dream.csac.ca.gov. This application again is for students who do not have a valid social security number and do not have a valid visa. As a reminder, students who are completing the DREAM Act application also must complete an AB 540 affidavit to make sure that they have in-state tuition eligibility. For the 24-25 application, it's going to be 2022 tax information that's pulled in. Again, if the IRS is not able to successfully make the match, then the information will be entered manually. Parent demographic information is required, so name, date of birth, date of marital status. Also any kind of investments, checking, savings accounts, any I think it's 504 plans, any kind of educational savings accounts for the student that will also be included in there. And then to make the parent's FSA ID, a social security number will be provided. If the student is completing a FAFSA and the parent does not have a valid social, then there is an option to create that FSA ID for parents who not have a social. And that information will be released by the Department of Education around the time that the FAFSA is released as well. Okay. If there is a special circumstance, meaning the financial aid, the financial information that's provided on the FAFSA, on the DREAM Act, is significantly different. Like, for example, if 2022 financial information does not reflect 2024 information, then students will have the option to submit an income reduction appeal. Or if there are multiple students in the household, right? We have cost of attendance for 2 colleges that need to be considered. Students can also do a cost of attendance appeal. If mom and dad aren't in the picture anymore, a student can also have a dependency override There's lots of options, and it's on the student to contact the financial aid office to advocate for what they need. Okay. Some important deadlines. Um, the FAFSA will be available sometime in December. I don't know the specific date, hasn't been released, but the FAFSA will be available in December 2023 for the graduating class of 2024. That priority consideration deadline for Cal Grant is going to be April 2nd. And again, the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application will be available until June 30th, 2025 of the academic year. So after April 2nd, please still apply if you haven't already, because your application will still be available. Just understand that you may go into the competitive cycle for certain types of aid. And again, we always recommend students, the sooner you apply, the better, and the more aid you're eligible for. After the financial aid application is submitted, look at that submission summary or the student aid report. Make sure that there's a student aid index number generated, okay? Because if you want to add more schools, or the mailing address is incorrect or needs to be updated, or you don't see a student aid index number generated, you must make corrections. It's really important to make sure that that information is accurate. All students will be notified once their application is received for that academic year. We tell students to check their student aid portal for a financial aid award letter, because if you've done your application before the beginning of the semester, you will know before you ever step foot in your first class the exact types of aid you're eligible for and how much for the entire year, assuming that you're enrolled full time. Okay. It's required. We tell students in that financial aid award letter, here are the specific types of aid, here are the specific numbers, and this is what it looks like for the entire year. Just understand that if enrollment fluctuates, right, if you're taking classes, you drop a class or you add a class, that information can change, okay? Because we can only award financial aid based on the number of units the student is taking. Okay, so you can't get the maximum financial aid if you're only taking one class. Okay, some helpful tips: apply for financial aid and apply early. The IVC federal school code is 025395. Make sure we're on there so you can qualify for promise. Check your email. And don't use your school email for Irvine Unified students, because that email gets deleted after you graduate. So we recommend using a personal email. Check it once a week for any kind of college notification so that you don't miss anything, because sometimes we have document requests. We have to have a student verify their information, or we need them to have an academic plan, or maybe they gave us their social security number on their FAFSA, but it wasn't provided when they did an application to IVC. So we need them to do that student information update form. We need them to verify information so that they can receive financial aid. So check your email. So very important. Also be mindful where you register. I understand that sometimes we're taking classes at multiple colleges. We will honor units taken at Saddleback. However, if you take classes at IVC and Saddleback and then also at other districts, we don't know that. And we cannot give you financial aid for classes not taken here. And only one school can disperse financial aid. Okay. And so we recommend take advantage of those priority deadlines, take advantage of that priority registration, get the classes you need and try to get them all at one school if you can. That way you're getting the financial aid you need, because we can't pay you for classes that are not taken in our district. Okay. Maintain academic progress. I did not know until I started working in financial aid. If you drop below a 2.0 or you're not completing 2/3 of the classes you attempt, there are financial aid repercussions. Okay. Well, that is the end of my spiel. This is my last slide. I see there's some questions in the Q&A, so I will take care of those, and then I'm gonna pass it off to my lovely co-host, Denise Perez. Thank
you, Erica. I did want to mention we will be staying 10 minutes or allowing 10 minutes of time for Q&A. So if you do see the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen, we will be answering those questions. So I'll go ahead and reintroduce myself. My name is Denise Perez, and I'm a outreach specialist here at IVC. And I actually work part of or oversee and part of the team for the Promise program along with Erica and other folks here at IVC. So I wanted just to give you some general information on what the program covers, the benefits, the costs, and what it is to be a Promise student. So first of all, the program covers 2 years of free tuition. And it's unique that it's not income-based. So this program, families can make a lot or very little, and every student will qualify for free tuition. The program also covers a health fee, so students can utilize our health center, health and wellness center here on campus. We pay that fee, and we also cover our ASIVC fee. So that's very similar to like ASB. So students can participate in the student government on campus. And another amazing benefit, the program covers, actually provides students with a book voucher every semester. So currently we allow students $300 every semester where they can log on to the bookstore online and order books and supplies, or walk into our bookstore here on campus and utilize that bookstore voucher every single semester for 2 years. We also offer designated Promise counseling services. So as a Promise student, we want to make sure students are successful on campus and making sure they're able to meet with counselors. So we do provide that service for students once they go into the counseling center here on campus and they identify themselves as a Promise student. We want to make sure they can speak to somebody on campus, especially a Promise student. And another great benefit that the program offers is workshops. So our students can participate what are called student success certificate programs. And those are just like another benefit of the program for students who kind of get more acclimated with, the college pace. Some of these workshops can be in balancing life and school, stress buster workshops, things like that. Next slide, please. Thank you, Erica. Okay, so how can students be eligible for the program? So for one, a student must be a first-time college student. So what does that mean? So any student in high school who's a current senior can qualify for this program, right? So if you are a dual enrollment student, you are still considered a first-time college student. And then you must be a California resident or AB 540 eligible. So undocumented students also participate and get Promise as well. And then you must enroll in 12 units. That is a full load in college, so full time. And you must identify IVC as your college of record, meaning your home school. So we are sister colleges with Saddleback, but you must identify which would be your home school. So the college of record must be identified as IVC. And you must submit a financial aid application or California Dream Act application. So I didn't mention that the program is not income-based, but it does require a financial aid application, and that is a requirement. So just please be sure, I know Erica mentioned on her last slide, the school code, when you are filling out your financial aid application, to please include Irvine Valley College, so we do receive your your file here at IVC. And then you must complete your steps to becoming an IVC student. So on our next slide, next slide, please. We will be going over the steps. So I did want to mention for IUSD, TUSD, and Laguna Beach, we do come to your school, IUSD and TUSD weekly. We do provide workshops as well. So these are the steps that students must complete in order to get in the Promise program. So we don't have an official application. As long as students submit their financial aid application, complete their steps of enrollment, you will be getting the Promise program. Okay, so keep a lookout when IVC will be visiting your high school. As I mentioned, we provide the workshops actually throughout the whole year. So please reach out to your high school counselor or look out for our IVC announcements. We are at your high schools, usually for TUSD and IUSD weekly. So if you have any questions or want a hard copy, we have all this information there. And then if you do complete your steps before May 7th, you do get priority registration, and that means you get to pick your classes before existing IVC students. Next slide, please. So I want to get a timeline so students kind of understand when they should be hearing from the Promise program. So for now, students can start the application process. So this would be for seniors only. So if you are a 9th, 10th, or 11th grader, you wouldn't be applying just yet. But for seniors, we highly recommend starting your steps now. We do require students to do the financial aid application, but as mentioned in the presentation, that probably will be happening late December or January. So about that, around that time, we recommend students having everything completed and then just waiting for May to register for classes. So students must register on their own for these classes. They can look at the date when they can register online on their student portal, and that will be posted sometime in April. Or you can check back with us too, and we can provide a better idea when that date will come up. I did provide the email here if you have any questions during October all the way to May on what this process looks like. If you have any questions, you can reach out to the Promise program. And then around in June, you should be hearing our first round of notifications letting students know that they did meet all the requirements, they completed their steps, and they got the program. Next slide, please. Perfect. So I would love to give some tips on what I've seen in the office here that students sometimes forget to do. One is actually the steps, right? Students can complete those steps now, as I mentioned, but the financial aid application. A lot of students do forget to add Irvine Valley College onto the FAFSA, and unfortunately, if we do not have that FAFSA, the student will not get the Promise program, right? So keep in mind a requirement for the program is you must be a first-time college student. If a student starts college, even say first week into school, you no longer meet that criteria. So it is important to make sure the financial aid application is received by the college. And then second, checking your email. So we do notify students their status, Promise status, if they're missing anything. We do send a couple emails throughout the year, even when they're in high school. So check that student email. Your student email is actually a email that is given by the college, and you can merge your personal email with your student email to get those updates all in one inbox. And then be mindful of your registration date. So all students will be getting a unique date to register, and you can log on to my site, which is our student portal, to go ahead and register for the full load, which is the 12 units. And lastly, I did want to mention students that are waitlisted in courses. So for example, some popular classes can get full pretty easily. That's why that priority registration is super important, and students take advantage of that. But those that don't and wait, and if a class gets full, a lot of students go on what's called a wait list. So that does not count towards the 12 units. So it's super important that the Promise student who hopes to get Promise is enrolled in 12 units. So wait listed courses do not count towards your 12 units. Next slide, please. And I wanted to mention a massive event that we're hosting here at IVC that we would love to invite all of you. This is happening April 17th, where we're having our big preview night festival on campus from 4 to 8. And we're basically going to have every program department on campus come out and provide information about programs, majors, support programs, all the information you want to know about IVC. You do this here. So this event's great. You can bring friends, family. If you register, you also get Habit Burger. You can walk around, mingle with other possible IVC students, and just meet professors as well. You'll see Erica and myself. We'll be hosting a presentation on Promise, honors program. Other folks who are actually presenting this week will be there as well. So we would love to see you all there April 17th. I know that seems a little further out, but if you register now, that's the QR code. You'll get reminders by next semester too. And if you wanted a hard copy, just go to your tabling during lunch, and you'll see IVC will have some hard copies of this wonderful event that we'll be hosting in April. Next slide, please. Okay, awesome. So this is our contact information. Here's mine, and also with the Promise program email and phone number. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions with the eligibility, maybe updates, or you just want to make sure you have everything in, you can always reach out to the Promise program. And Erica's information as well is here. So Erica, did you want to go into some of the popular questions maybe that came up during the Q&A?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Denise. Okay, so I answered quite a few. But there was one question I just answered. So everybody should be able to see the responses to all of the questions I answered if you click the Q&A box and then you navigate to the answered tab. It was asked, oh, can you receive both the Cal Grant and the Pell Grant? And if you complete the FAFSA, then have you applied for both? It's a great question. So when you do a FAFSA, that makes you eligible for, I shouldn't say eligible, I should say considered for all the types of aid that we have available at the college. So Irvine Valley Promise is in there. California College Promise Grant is in there. Cal Grant, Pell Grant, Student Success Completion Grant, other types of aid I may not have even mentioned because we don't know they exist yet. All types of aid are in there. The only other extra application is going to be the IVC scholarship program, and you guys can't qualify for that yet because you're not IVC students yet. If that helps. It's a good question. I think, were there any questions that you wanted to answer live, Denise, that you typed responses to?
Yeah, a lot of the questions we were kind of getting is more on how to apply to the college. I did want to mention that if you go straight to our website, ivc.edu, you can locate on the very top right, there's a pink button that says apply. Students can apply on their own, but I did want to mention we go to your campus to provide workshops where you can sit with someone in a classroom setting with other students to apply to IVC. So I do recommend just keeping a lookout for announcements for your pertaining high school where we do come out and do the application. Now, students can come on campus and do some of the steps, not all at once, but we do provide some of the steps. So probably best to do that on campus, or you can definitely do that on our own at home. A lot of students can complete those steps by themselves. But for any questions, you can reach out. Use our promise email, to be honest, for any students that have questions about, how to get started at IVC that's pertaining to my office anyway, so we can help you out with that too.
And then it looks like we also got a question about dual enrollment. So I don't know if you want to take that, Denise, or I can take it.
Yeah, well, the dual enrollment, I did want to mention if we're having questions for dual enrollment, I highly recommend logging on tomorrow at 4:30. Dual enrollment will be presenting tomorrow. Our wonderful counselor, Robert Melendez, will be on the presentation. So if you have specifics on dual enrollment, so let me see
So
here.
it's the question is, I'm a senior at Irvine High and dual enrolled at IVC. I tried to apply, but it says I'm already attending IVC. What are the steps
Gotcha.
involved with rollover?
That's a great question. So students that are currently already enrolled at IVC as a dual enrollment student, you will be part of what's called a rollover. Now, I'm not an expert in this area, so I do recommend checking out tomorrow's presentation. They will be going over that process, but essentially, the system will be rolling over students. So you will be keeping your same student ID number and you are pertaining to IVC already. I do recommend following up with our admissions office just to be sure you don't need to submit another application for fall. It just really depends when the student is enrolled, fall or spring, if there's not a gap. So I do recommend checking with our admissions office or logging in tomorrow for our dual enrollment presentation where you can get directly and answer this specific question with the experts tomorrow.
Yes. And then also I just want to highlight too, in consideration for promise, students will still be able to maintain a first-time student in college status, even if they're taking dual enrollment classes. That will not exclude them from Irvine Valley Promise because there's a special condition that says that you are a college student that's also enrolled in high school. So once you graduate, that status gets updated and then you can become a first-time student in college. Yay.
That is correct. So not to worry, dual enrollment students, you still would be eligible for promise and are considered first-time college students.
And then there was a question about the FAFSA. So a couple of students have jumped the gun. So if you have already started the FAFSA, the 24-25 application is not available. So if you said, oh, I already did my FAFSA, you probably did the 23-24 application for the current academic year. So the student asks like, oh no, what do I do? It's like, it's not a problem later. So once the next application becomes available, just do that one. Whatever schools are added to the 23-24 application, they're going to get a copy of that information. But it's not going to exclude you from consideration from Irvine Valley Promise. We'll just accept your 24-25. Because like I said, you can always make corrections to the information. And that was just a whoops. And that's okay. No harm, no foul. Because there won't be any repercussions, because if you are a current high school student, even if you're taking dual enrollment classes, you wouldn't be eligible for financial aid anyways. There's a really good question. Should the steps occur in this order? The student creates FSAID, parent creates FSAID, student invites parents. That is a correct order. There are multiple orders, and that is one that works. So once the student creates the FSAID on studentaid.gov, great. They'll be able to start the 24-25 application in December. And then they'll enter their personal circumstances. They'll say, okay, yeah, well, you have no babies. You're under the age of 24. Please invite your parents to the applications. Parents will get that link to their email. They'll sign in with their FSAID, and that works. Which financial aid type does not have a family income cap? Irvine Valley Promise. That doesn't have an income cap.
So apply and make sure you get Promise
Yes.
program.
Yes. So Irvine Valley Promise, you can receive it even if your family makes trillions of dollars. Yeah, but there are other types of aid that we talked about: Pell Grant, Cal Grant, even the California College Promise Grant. We do base eligibility for those types of aid on students' need, which is a combination of the size of the household and family income and assets. Denise, can we start taking summer classes as Promise program?
Yes and no. It really depends. So for students who are wanting to take summer school in the summer, you can. It's just a little different. So my recommendation is actually meeting with the counselor first, because in order for Promise to cover tuition in the summer, you must enroll in 12 units for summer. So summer courses are accelerated. So we do not recommend students taking on that load unless they've already spoken with a counselor who can kind of go over what that would look like, since it's a fast pace in the summer. So yes, but I recommend speaking with the counselor first. And since obviously students are just starting at IVC, we want to make sure their experience is a successful one, and the counselors want to make sure that the courses they are signing up for in the summer, they will be successful, since it's pretty fast to do 12 units in the summer. So my recommendation is speaking with the counselor. And I did want to mention for everyone who's still on here that students can't meet with IVC counselors currently now. All you have to do is just go to our website. You can book an appointment through a counseling center and speak to a counselor if your student or yourself has any questions regarding majors, right? So we did mention students must register in May. So if you wanted to know what classes you would register for, I recommend making an appointment with the counselor, and they can kind of discuss, what your trajectory at IVC would look like for the next 2 years.
Yes, and I want to tack on, just from a financial aid perspective, that some students do qualify for that California College Promise Grant fee waiver that I talked about earlier. So maybe it would be a good idea to also say, okay, well, maybe I don't want to take 12 units through Promise because that's a lot in the summer. Maybe I just want to take one class. Let me just see if I qualify for this fee waiver, because that way you will get your tuition covered. You just have to pay the health fee and student government fee. So that is an option as well. Like I said, the need for that specific type of aid is significantly lower. So it's definitely something to consider. And you can get Pell Grant for summer classes too.
That's great. I think the deadline question.
Yes, what is the deadline for the FSAID? There is no deadline. You can make it now, you can make it later. I'm gonna tweak the question just a little bit and say what's the deadline for the FAFSA? To qualify for the Irvine Valley Promise Program, please try to have your FAFSA done in the summer. To qualify for the most amount of financial aid, um, try to submit your FAFSA or DREAM Act application by April 2nd. Um, that's my personal recommendation as a financial aid specialist.
And speaking of deadline, I did want to mention too, in regards to the Promise program, we don't have a specific deadline for Promise program, but we do have only a certain amount of funding for the program. So we do recommend students just completing everything they can on time so they can get that yes, you're in the program email and secure your spot essentially. So once the funds are out, I'm not saying a lot of students didn't do that last year, everyone got in who applied, but we do see this program being very popular and want to make sure students get the yes, you're in the program email in June, like we mentioned. Okay, so for any questions about eligibility, you can reach directly the Promise program. We can kind of go over where you're at if you had any questions in this around the spring semester. Any other questions? We still have about like 8-ish minutes left. As I mentioned, you can go into the Q&A box on the bottom, type it in. Let's see. Now we answered a couple.
I did want to answer one question. Um, so I got a question that said, okay, can I apply for FAFSA if I'm not a California resident?
Hmm.
So that's kind of a complicated question. So as I kind of hinted out earlier, if a student and their family have valid visas, they cannot complete a FAFSA or a DREAM Act application. And I'll say that again. If a student and their family has a valid visa, they're not eligible to complete a FAFSA or a California DREAM Act application, which means they would not be eligible for Promise, unfortunately. Now, I will say, based on the type of visa, the student may be eligible for in-state tuition, and that information can be found on our admissions and records website. So yes, that's kind of a hard question to answer. Now, if a student is not a California resident, meaning that they are a US citizen or they are a permanent resident, but they just recently came to California, there may be federal type of aid that they could qualify for, like the Pell Grant. And then depending on when they entered California, it needs to be a year and a day before the semester begins. So a year and a day before the start of fall semester, a student could qualify for California residency to get in-state tuition. And if they are a US citizen permanent resident, then they could also do a FAFSA and may be eligible for Promise. But our best recommendation is if you have questions about your eligibility for Promise, just send an email to ivcpromise@ivc.edu, and we'll be happy to look at your unique circumstances. We'll talk with you, we'll work with you. ivcpromise@ivc.edu is going to be your best friend if you have any concerns about eligibility for Promise. We got some questions. Is there an income limit to be eligible for the free application, and what type of financial aid would I need to apply? So the FAFSA is called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And so it's a free application. You do not need to pay to complete it. If anybody is charging you to complete the FAFSA, that's no bueno. We don't want that to happen. It's a free application. If you need assistance, I will be coming to all of the Irvine high schools, and you can just, I'll help you for free. I get paid, so it's fine. And then what financial information do you need? It's going to be federal tax return information. Now, again, like I talked about earlier, if you're doing the FAFSA, that information's supposed to be pulled in automatically. But just to be prepared, you can bring your 2022 tax return, or you can, pull out that tax return information when you're doing the FAFSA just to complete it if you do have to enter the information manually. Um, you'll also need to know any kind of like investment information, so stocks, bonds, if you have any rental properties that you don't currently like live in. Like, for example, if you have a wonderful house and then you have like a little condo in Newport Beach, hit me up. I want to go there. Just kidding. You would report that extra rent, that extra property as an asset because it's not the home that you live in. So that information you would need. Oh, I meant for the college application to be eligible for free from aid. Could you be a little more specific? I'm not sure what you're asking. Is there an income limit for the college application? The IVC application is also free. So, and there's like, I think maybe the question is there like a specific like income amount to be eligible for financial aid? And again, that's a really complicated question to answer. It's not a specific number. So it's like, let's say the household income is $100,000 and there's 4 people in the household. What kind of financial aid are we talking? Like, if you got a 3.0, maybe you're eligible for a Cal Grant. So again, it's going to be based on different things because like the household income could be like 100,000, but maybe you also have like $1 million in investments. I don't know. All of that information gets calculated together to then determine your student aid index number. So the best thing to do is just do the application. So I want to apply for more than 10 schools. How do I do that? There is actually 20. So my friend, you may be doing the 23-24 application. And if you're currently a senior, that's not the application that you need to complete. Your application isn't available yet. So again, the 2024-2025 application becomes available in December and you'll be able to put 20 schools on it. But just for the sake of clarity, let's say you want to put more than 20 schools, no problem. After your first FAFSA is submitted successfully and it's been processed, everything's good to go, you just submit corrections and you add another school. You just delete one and you add another school and then you sign and submit it again. Lots of really good questions. We have 2 more minutes. I thought 4-year college applications have fees. Ah, yes, they do. I would talk to your college and career person at the high school. There are fee waivers potentially, but um I would talk to your college and career center specialist just to see if they can help you with that because I know it for transfer students, but it's a little bit different for high school students. But that concludes our time. We'll just hang out for 1 more minute. Thank you everybody for being
Thank
here.
you.